feeling really good about it. I spent 10 years in front of university classrooms, and I never really got tired of posing questions to the class. So I'm going to open with this. How many of you, by show of hands, are completely and totally comfortable with calling yourself a leader? That's actually remarkable, because that's a third of the people in this audience. That means 2/3 don't, though. And considering what you do and when you interact with people and the impact you have on people's lives at a particular time in their lives where they're incredibly vulnerable, the fact that 2/3 of the people in this room didn't raise their hands is pretty remarkable. The thing is, that always happens. Like, I've asked that question to over 1,000 audiences around the world, different ages, different backgrounds, different industries. Less than 1% of the time do I get more than half the people in the room willing to raise their hands and say they're comfortable calling themselves leaders. And the vast majority of those audiences were children under the age of 12. Like, there's something about the term leader that the older we get, the more we treat it as if it's something we need permission to use. That only after making enough money, only after rising high enough in your profession, only after gaining enough notoriety, does some external individual or organization bestow upon you whatever it is you think you need to call yourself a leader in front of other people. But what I found is until we get that external permission, what we're afraid of is that calling ourselves leaders, especially in front of other people, calls for a level of cockiness and arrogance with which we don't want to be associated. And what you just saw in this room is indicative of a society-wide tendency to turn leadership into something bigger than us, to make it into something beyond us, to focus on money and titles and influence when we evaluate leaders. And ultimately what happens is it creates a wedge between most people, the idea of leadership, and their own identity. And you know where it comes from? How we teach it. I'm from the education system. And what happens is when we want people, particularly young people, to understand a new concept, what we do is we give you examples of that concept. And whatever example you're given at first to illustrate a concept, it shapes how you think about it for the rest of your life. It also limits how you think about it for the rest of your life. And so I want you to think about the concept of leader and how you learned about it. Specifically, I want you to think about what examples you were given to illustrate what a leader was. And my guess is that the vast majority were giants. They were presidents, and they were scientific groundbreakers, and they were people who conquered empires. And the problem with using giants, I have no problem with looking up to successful people. Kids today, though, are still being given the same examples. Look at Warren Buffett invest. Look at Steve Jobs innovate. Look at Mark Zuckerberg create this global empire. There is nothing wrong with celebrating successful people. The challenge is when we only use giants as our examples of leaders, it causes most of us to devalue the leadership that we do demonstrate every day. And we start to let moments of leadership pass us by, and we don't let ourselves take credit for them, and we don't let ourselves feel good about them. Like, for better or for worse, the stuff that makes you feel good when you do it, that's the stuff you're driven to do every day. If it feels good when you do it, you will do it more often. So when we let moments of leadership pass us by, and when I say moments of leadership, I'm not talking about influence and power and recognition. What I'm talking about are moments of kindness and generosity and empathy and forgiveness. Those are moments of leadership, but we don't call them that. What we call them is the little things. We call those the little things in life, yet they are the most profound things that we do. And when we call them moments of impact and kindness, the best of humanity, when we call them the little things, we are devaluing them. We are effectively saying for something to be big and for something to be leadership, it has to make you rich